everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of the Fantasy Fiction Files podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, welcome as well. Today I'd like to go over a couple of books and share with you my thoughts and feelings on 2 books in a related series. The reason I'm covering 2 books is because they're both related, and they were meant as an introductory into a series of books called the Iron Druid Chronicles. The first book, the short story that I want to go over, and the reason that I'm including it is because it is a short story, is Kaibab Unbound, and the second is going to be Hounded. These are the first 2 books in the Iron Druid Chronicles, and we are introduced to the main character, Atticus O'Sullivan. Now, the Iron Druid Chronicles were written by Kevin Hearne and narrated by Luke Daniels. Kaibab Unbound is the first of 2 short stories in an audiobook called 2 Tales of the Iron Druid Chronicles, and the second of the 2 short stories in that audiobook is A Test of Metal. A Test of Metal takes place right around the same time as the third book of the series, but Kaibab Unbound takes place just prior to the first book of the Iron Druid Chronicles called Hounded, which is the other book that I'm going to be talking to you about. Now, if you don't listen to audiobooks, you can also find Kaibab Unbound as part of the Kindle version of Hounded, which makes it rather convenient, actually. And a second short story is also included in the Kindle version called Clan Rathskeller. Okay, in Kaibab Unbound, we are introduced to Atticus O'Sullivan and to his dog, Oberon, who is an Irish wolfhound. And I have to say that Luke Daniels really does a fantastic job of bringing Oberon to life. Now, Atticus is a 2,100-year-old druid. He's the last remaining druid of the ancient druids, and he's still alive and kicking in the 21st century. We learn a little bit about his druidic duties and his connection to the earth as he takes on a small coven of witches in an attempt to help out a local earth elemental. Now, I'm not going to say a whole lot about Kaibab Unbound because it's a short story and it's really going to be easy to give away too many spoilers, so I don't want to do that. But I am going to go over just a little bit about the plot, very briefly. The basic plot is Atticus is out and about with Oberon when he comes across a witch. As he's watching this witch, she ends up meeting up with 2 other witches. Now, Atticus is a bit paranoid, but I guess you could say it's in a healthy way, because that's what's managed to keep him alive for the last 2 millennia. Now, being paranoid like he is, he thinks that these witches may be after him for some reason. So he keeps an eye on them and does what he can to elude them and get away from them. When he does, him and Oberon go out to a local large lake where they can go hunting. While they're out hunting, the local earth elemental there sends him an SOS, a quick, panicked call for help. Now it's up to Atticus to save the local earth elemental. Now in Kaibab Unbound, the short story, we learn a lot about Atticus and what his druidic powers or abilities are. So much so that I'm glad, actually, that I personally did not come across this audiobook, this short story, until after I had finished with the first 7 books of the series that have been released up to the point of this review. The series is still ongoing, and I'm looking very forward to many more books. Now, having said that, I am not saying that it's not worth reading or listening to, because it is a very fun short story. But let's move on to the official first book of the story, Hounded. Now, in Hounded, Kevin Hearne takes the approach that we haven't heard of, listened to, read Kaibab Unbound. Now, in a way, this is a good thing because, to the best of my knowledge, Kaibab Unbound had not been released as of the time of the release of the first book of Hounded. So he alludes to the events of Kaibab Unbound, but so briefly and in such a way that if you weren't aware of its existence, you wouldn't feel as though you'd missed anything. Now, unlike some other series that I've been through, I actually managed to find the first book first, so that's what I ended up listening to first. And Mr. Hearne really gives us a chance to start to get to know Atticus and Oberon, who I love. Oberon is Atticus's Irish wolfhound, and they have a special bond, not just in terms of a pet, but he has magically, druidically bonded with Oberon and has started teaching him the English language, and they're able to communicate telepathically. His relationship, Atticus's relationship with Oberon, is such that it almost is if though Oberon kind of keeps Atticus grounded to the here and now, which is pretty important for somebody who's 2,100 years old, especially when they only look 21. The story of Hounded also introduces us to Atticus's tenuous relationship with his native pantheon of gods and goddesses, the Celtic pantheon. Not only his tenuous relationship with them, but his outright conflict with one of them, Angus Og. In fact, the plot of Hounded revolves around this conflict with Angus Og, who is the Celtic god of love, though you wouldn't know it from Atticus's point of view, from his true knowledge of the personality of Angus Og. Now, Angus is obsessed with retrieving a sword that is in Atticus's possession. Angus feels that Atticus has stolen this magical sword called Fragora the Answerer. Atticus, on the other hand, didn't steal the sword, but acquired it, and has been on the run with it for the last 2,000 years. Throughout the book, we also learned that the world of the Iron Druid Chronicles is full of the coexistence of different pantheons of gods, different religions. And we also learned that the denizens of the paranormal world also exist, although they're hidden. We run into werewolves, vampires, witches, demons, gods and goddesses. It's really a unique world that Kevin Hearne has introduced us to. Okay, a little bit more about the story and the main character, Atticus. In Hounded, we learned that Atticus is, like I said, he's a 2,100-year-old druid who only looks 21 years old. He owns a New Age bookstore called Third Eye Books. His real name is Sheehan O'Sullivan, which I never would have gotten from the way it's spelled. Thanks to the audiobook, it's pronounced for you, so I was able to get it. In fact, this is how it's spelled in the book. And we learned that Angus Og has finally tracked down Atticus and is starting to make his move. To confirm this, the Morrigan, the Celtic god of death and war, shows up at Third Eye Books, Atticus's bookstore, and tells him that Angus has found him, and she's even divined Atticus's death and encourages him to go on the run again. Now, in addition to Angus Og and the Morrigan, we're introduced actually to several of the members of the Celtic pantheon, some who like Atticus, some who see him as a means to an end, and some who just downright dislike him, or in the case of Angus Og, they want to kill him. Now, Angus really wants this sword badly, and Atticus really does not want him to have it. Knowing Angus the way he does, Atticus doesn't think that it would be a very good idea for Angus to have this sword. It has magical abilities that you're going to have to read the book to find out what they are. And actually, in order to find out everything that it can do, you have to go through at least the first 2 books. So now that Angus has found Atticus, he kind of starts working behind the scenes to make life pretty difficult for Atticus, which helps to propagate the story and makes it fun. Now, instead of Atticus going on the run again, he decides to go ahead and make his final stand. He's tired of running, and throughout the book, he actually ends up enlisting the aid of some friends or acquaintances, contacts that he's made over the years. including werewolves and vampires. Or, in other words, his lawyers and his doctors. Now, another character we meet is Granuel. Granuel is going to be his... should I tell you? I think not. But let's just say that she is a main character and she will be in the rest of the books. Now, did I find this audiobook series fun? Did I find it enjoyable? Absolutely. In fantasy, urban fantasy, epic tales, or even those that aren't epic tales, authors can take different approaches. They can keep it very serious. They can keep it lighthearted. They can have a combination of the two. And in this particular case, it goes back and forth between lighthearted and kind of a combination of keeping it serious and lighthearted. Personally, I fell in love with Oberon. Oberon is extremely witty, and the way Luke Daniels narrates the voices and the relationship between Atticus and Oberon is extremely fun, and I laughed out loud several times going through the series, or through Hounded alone, but through the series as well. Would I recommend this book? Absolutely. And to who? If I had to give it a PG rating, I'd probably say PG 13, 14, because you're going to end up wanting to read the whole series, and some of the content throughout the series might be more for a slightly more mature audience. And by mature, I don't mean adult. I just mean, mid-teens. Luke Daniels has done a fantastic job with all the different voices. There's a lot of characters throughout the book, and he's done a fantastic job with accents, with personalities, and really bringing the characters to life in such a way that, for me at least, each of the individual characters was very identifiable. And that's it for the review this time around. If you've enjoyed the review, please like, comment, and subscribe. If there's anything else that you'd like to see included in my audiobook reviews, please leave a comment and let me know what you'd like to get out of the reviews so that I can better share with you. If you'd like to subscribe to the podcast version, you can do so on the website at fantasyfictionfiles.com. If you'd like to find me elsewhere, you can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest at fantasyfictionfiles.com/Facebook or /Twitter or /Pinterest, depending on where you'd like to find me. Thank you for watching the review of Kaibab, Unbound, and Hounded, and we'll see you in the next book, and we'll see you in the next video for a review of the second book of the series, Hexed. Until then, have a great day.